I wake up always in the middle of the night, and I'm very nervous. You know, you start visualizing bulls running at you and falling and what might happen, etc. And I always wake up cramps in my stomach. I'm always frightened. I've never missed a day in 34 years. Never missed one bull run. No one will ever do that. I didn't plan to do it. I don't think any Spaniard certainly has ever done it. It just happened. Remember, I was able to take off summers to come to Spain.
How did you do that?
I was upset. I just did. I quit a job in advertising to become a teacher so I'd get time off. And then I would take off from work. I'd take off without pay. I always wanted to be here. The other thing is, when my friends were out in the street eating or dining or drinking, I constantly, always, about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, start to get nervous because I'm going to run bulls. And no matter what, when I was partying in the street as a young man with beautiful women, drinking, dancing all night, running was why I came to Pamplona. I come to run bulls, and I've been obsessed by it. So I've never missed a day in all that time. Now, people say, is that pressure on me? I've never even thought about it until my 30th year, when someone came up and said, do you realize you've never missed a day in 30 years of running? It's unheard of. The first time I ran, I got in the middle of the street and had no idea which way the bulls came. I didn't know if they came from here or down there. I had no idea, spoke not one word of Spanish, didn't know anybody. There weren't many foreign runners at the time. So I just stood in the middle of the street. And I finally said to somebody, a guy who turned out to be one of my dearest friends, a great runner, Antonio Campion, said to me, Los Toros, La Plaza. So I knew which way they were coming. The minute the rocket went off, I took off. Back then I was 23 years old and I could run like, boy, I could fly. I was up that street so fast you wouldn't have seen me. I got into the bull ring, ran across the bull, turned around, and I waited, impregnated 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes before a bull ever came in. I was so scared you can't believe it. So I'm standing at the very far side of the ring, behind people, and I see this bull come in the ring. It's 75 yards from me, and I wet my pants. I said, this thing's huge. It's as big as a truck. I literally got my backpack and hitchhiked out of town. I was halfway to San Sebastian. You got to be out of your mind, these people. And I don't know what happened. I'm standing on the side of the road hitchhiking, and I got this feeling. I said, wait a minute, man. There's got to be more to this emotion and what I'm feeling here, all these mixed feelings. I said, I'm going to go back one more day. I'm going to go back, I'm going to ask people, I got to find out what's going on. So I came back to town, I went into the Photo Gomez shop, started looking at photographs, and while I was in there, I met Matt Carney came walking in. And he was my idol. I mean, I'd read about him in Iberia. I thought I'd be the first American to come and become a great bull runner. I found out he had already done it. And he was like a legend back, even before the Americans became a presence here. And I didn't even dare to go up to him, you know. He just walked in with all the Spanish surrounding him. And every day I would watch him, you know, and look. And finally, after my 4th day running, I just thought, I'm going to follow Matt Carney. Now, I'm 25 years younger than him. I'm in better shape than him. Wherever he goes, I'm going. And the next morning, he didn't even know it. He'd walk out. Some woman gave him a flower. He'd be smelling the flower. He was a very dramatic guy, you know, in the middle of the street, a good Irishman, saying hello to everybody. And when the rocket took off, I ran next to him. He didn't even know I was there. And we're jogging up the street, slowly, slowly, slowly. I turn around. There are bulls behind us. I turn around and getting closer. He's casually jogging up the street. I'm looking, I'm having a panic attack. At the last second, just as the bulls are on us, he takes off like that, he's gone. I'm going like this, the bulls are by me. I'm looking at the rear end of the bulls and Matt Carney running up the street in front of the bulls. And I said, Joseph, my boy, there is a lot to be learned about bull running.
I think that there's some sort of ancestral, some sort of primitive, some sort of atavistic connection with bulls. I think that we've been connected with bulls forever. You know, you look at the words for money and salary and that sort of thing, and they all come from stock. Wealth used to be counted in terms of pecuniary materials, which is ganado. No, it's stock. But it's probably a lot deeper than that. I think it goes back to the old religions. In fact, if you go all the way back to Neanderthals and Cro-Magnons, you go to the cave paintings, you'll see that a lot of those paintings have to do with the bull. In fact, some of them are virtual chapels to either bisons, the Vicente, or the Bos primigenius, it's called the aurochs, which is the forerunner of the modern Spanish fighting bull. And that animal is the animal that was depicted most frequently as the god. And the bull very frequently died. His life was very frequently sacrificed so that the cycles of nature could continue, so that people could eat, so that the tribe would survive. Now, there's something magical about those animals. And the only thing today that really gives us a sense of that magic or that mystery is the corrida and the encierro. One on the level of art, a myth, and the other on the level more like a sport, an exercise, perhaps even a fertility rite in the background if you want.
I run because I have to run. It's more of an internal thing or primeval thing. I think a lot of people over-intellectualize or over-analyze why they do it. In part, they do that because people like you ask me, why do you run? I used to climb mountains, and I've been on Everest. I didn't summit, though. And most of the people there get asked, why do you climb? And after a while, you make up little stories about why you climb. But most climbers climb because they want to climb or need to climb. And I run here because I need to run.
You go in for this random factor, which life doesn't have. I mean, everybody's life is predictable, and everybody goes down, and you try to stay out of harm's way. And here, you're deliberately putting yourself into a difficult situation. It's a situation that has a lot of randomness, and you can't find that in life. It's just very difficult to find, and it's a wonderful experience just for that.
Most people, I think, probably do it. A lot of the foreigners, the college kids who come here, do it sort of out of a sense of adventure and daring, and that their buddies are doing it and they have to do it. And unfortunately, they don't know enough about it. They don't study it. They don't see an encierro before they take part in one. And they do it once or twice, and they're lucky, they don't get hurt, and they leave. And it's an experience that they hold with them for life, because for whatever reasons they did it, and it was exciting, and it will affect their life somehow. They might go on to be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant, but they will remember running with the bulls the rest of their life, I guarantee it. Be 70 years old and say, oh yeah, I ran the bulls back in 1965, 2 days, so it was amazing. Everybody has that feeling because you're facing death.
Well, we're down at the corrales at the bottom of Santo Domingo, and at night they have what's called an ensorrillo, which is a running of the bulls from the outskirts of the town up into this little area here, which is like a bullpen, if you would. The reason this, years ago when bulls had to be brought into a town, they didn't have trucks, and they didn't have airplanes, and they couldn't just bring them in. So what they would do is they'd bring them into the outskirts of the village, they'd cordon off the shortest distance to the bull ring, and then in the morning, when everybody was supposedly asleep, they would run the bulls into the bull plaza, of course, and then fight them in the afternoon. And of course, during the years, in most towns, that ended when trucks came along. They began delivering the bulls by by truck, etc. But in various towns, Pamplona being the most famous of them, they still run the bulls from the bull pens, the outskirts of town, through the streets into the bull ring. Back in the 1920s, men on their way to work, that's why when you see men dressed in jackets and boinas, they would jump over the barrier and run along with the bulls. They didn't look upon it as something glorious or a wonderful thing to run with the bulls. They were on their way to work, you know. And then, of course, when Hemingway came, he saw it, wrote about it, and that changed it forever, for better or worse.
Cuando empieza los Sanfermines, cada día a las 11 de la noche, 10:30, 11 de la noche, se suben al corral de Santo Domingo. Y nada, pues consiste en sacarlos de los corrales del gas. No corre gente en el encierrillo, solamente los pastores, arreando los toros hasta subirlos al corralillo de Santo Domingo. Todo el mundo que está viendo tiene que estar en silencio, las luces apagadas, para que el toro vea oscuridad y no a la luz del día, porque a la luz del día igual pegarían en las vallas. Pero en el momento del encierrillo no estamos más que los pastores arreando a los 6 toros y a los 6 cabestos que suben con ellos.
Ningún problema para correr, ¿vale?
¿Cuántos metros?
100 metros o así. El recorrido tiene casi 1 kilómetro, 860 o así, ¿vale? Venga.
Everybody is always very nervous. The tension is incredible from the moment you get up and stretch. I get up at 7 o'clock. I stretch. I go up on a hill with a few Basque runners. We work out. Literally stretch, warm up our legs, etc. And then about 7:45, I'll actually come onto the course itself, which is what we're on now. And up in this little niche up here, they will have a statue of San Fermin, and they'll have the escudos, the peña, all of the peña symbols all around it, and a candle lit. And men will pray, say a prayer to the saint up here, and then a lot of people will sing a song. Just a moments before the run begins, they sing, A San Fermín pedimos por ser nuestro patrón, nos guíe en el encierro, danos su bendición. Forgive my singing, but that's what they sing. And they pray to the saint to protect them. And right after that, a few seconds after that, the rocket goes off, and of course the bulls are in the street.
El encierro, por definición, es un traslado de toros a encerrar, que los llevan de un corral a otro corral que es en la plaza para poder lidiarlos a la tarde. Entonces él está en un corral tranquilamente, de repente está con unos mansos, salen corriendo los mansos, sale corriendo el toro detrás de los mansos, no sabe a dónde va, se encuentra con mucho ruido, mucha gente y un pasillo de luz. Entonces él lógicamente va hacia el pasillo de luz. ¿Qué ocurre? Que Santo Domingo no es conflictiva porque Santo Domingo es una huida del toro. El toro está todavía crudo, está corriendo cuesta arriba, que es lo que más le favorece a él, entonces es una carrera alocada. Al final, en cambio, el toro va más tranquilo, va más cansado y encima el terreno se le vuelve a la contra, que es el cuesta abajo. Entonces, en cuesta abajo el toro, por su propia morfología, y tú sabes que las patas delanteras y las traseras, las manos no son iguales, entonces el toro va más frenado. Entonces, en principio, la gente puede templar y, llamemos, disfrutar más del toro en esa zona. Es otra forma de correr.
To try to catch a bull or to find a hole in Santo Domingo is a whole different story than trying to do it up in Estafeta. You can figure that the velocity of the thing is almost double down there, especially at the very, very beginning. And you don't have a lot of room to move. If the bulls come up like they did this morning, scraping the wall on the left-hand side, and I tend to run on the left-hand side, then, sometimes you have to dive, and that's the only way you can get out. And if that's the way it comes, that's the way it comes. Today, I probably should have dived. And this guy here, he's got his own story to tell, probably from his first time running on Santo Domingo.
Going down there, I was extremely nervous. But something that Tony said that is very accurate is there's a warm feeling down there. the police, everyone, even the other runners are extremely helpful and told me a variety of things, including when I asked them where the safest place to be, they all said get off the street. Others said along the left wall, which is where Tony was talking about earlier. And of course I took their advice to be the gospel. And the left wall was the wrong place to be today. So I was a little disappointed and discouraged about that. And I ran maybe 6 meters, so I didn't reach my goal of 10, but I was happy with 6. Turned around and ran a little bit further than I expected and hugged the inside wall as directed by my wonderful teacher. And as Tony said, there was what it appeared to me to be 2 bulls that were looking for people on that inside wall. And before, when I'd run on Estafeta, I never got the chance to have a bull look right at me in the eyes. These 2 bulls that were looking for people looked right at me.
That was exactly the experience this morning.
Yeah, and I hadn't ever had that experience before. So I truly felt today, that as maybe ridiculous as it may sound, I felt like I finally had the experience of La Fiesta de San Fermín.
This is Calle Mercaderes, and there's been a change here in the last few years, and that is there are no longer curbs on the side of the street. That is dramatically changed the Encierro. It made all of us, the first year that this changed, really have to look at running again. Why? I stand up in a corner up here, and I used to stand on a curb. I always felt safe, knowing chances are the bull is not going to come up on the curb. It doesn't want to hurt himself. Now there are no curbs. So if a bull turns here, a bull can literally go against that wall and go straight up the wall if he wants. Now, if I'm standing in that corner, I have no place to go. That's why this particular area is so dangerous, because the bulls, they pick up speed here. They've just come uphill, and now they're on a long, narrow area, and they are hauling ass, boy. They're moving now. This area here, this is like a sprinter. So you have to totally concentrate from the minute the rocket goes off until you see them coming, and then at that moment go. And in order to do that, then you really have to swallow everything and just wait. Now, if you see bulls coming, they're this close to you, and you can't move. It is violent beyond belief. Bulls fall, bang against people. The other places, the bulls are loping. You can work your way in, and if it doesn't work, you can get out. Here, there is no second chance. You have to go, or it's over. You're looking at the rear ends of bulls. That's how fast they move here.
Los toros estaban en el campo hace 3 días, imagínate, mételos aquí. Entonces tienden a unirse a los mansos, que se sienten protegidos ahí. Eso es, pero claro, al venir de Mercaderes con esa fuerza, se pegan unos hostiazos en la pared, se caen, y ese es el momento de buscar huecos. Si eres listo, tienes un par de segundos pero un par de segundos. Porque se levantan muy deprisa y además cogen velocidad enseguida, y además es cuesta arriba. El toro corre más cuesta arriba que cuesta abajo porque tiene las patas más cortas.
This is where you go through the callejón, or the entrance to the bull ring. It's the equivalent of going from a 4-lane highway to a 2-lane highway. And a tremendous amount of tragedies up here, because if one person falls in the entranceway to the bull ring, and then people pile up on top of them. I've been caught in pile-ups. I couldn't move my legs. It doesn't matter what kind of a runner you are if you can't move. And bulls piled up next to us, unloading on top, and they're as frightened as you are. This is one of the really things you always pray that there'll never be a pile-up, a montón they're called, a mountain.
El tema de la carrera es una incógnita en cuanto a que luego te sitúas en un embudo que es el callejón, que normalmente y con frecuencia suele haber caídas, y corres ya, aparte del riesgo y emoción de estar con el toro, pues la posibilidad de encontrarte con un obstáculo como son corredores dentro del callejón, que ahí no tienes posibilidad ni de orillarte a los lados ni echar marcha atrás. Allá tienes que tirar hasta la plaza, pues con todas las consecuencias.
Once the bulls get in the plaza, hopefully the bulls go in the ring, they go to the other side, and on the other side there are men who have fought bulls. Lalo Moreno, who owns the Perla Hotel, is an ex-matador. He's out there with his cape every morning as a doblador, and he'll try to bring the bulls safely into the pen. And those are the bulls that are fought then in the afternoon. Sometimes the bulls don't go gently into that, and they run around in the ring, and you can imagine the chaos that causes, a bull getting isolated. Then those men, the dobladors, will go out with their capotes and try to get the bull safely back in. The idea is those animals are worth $15,000, $20,000 an animal. You don't want them to hurt themselves. You understand? You want them gently to go in. That's why we're so against people touching the animals, grabbing the horn of the animals. If you touch an animal, the natural flow of the animal changes. And if he turns around, the majority of people behind the bulls, they'll get gored to death. You're supposed to run with the bulls without impeding the bull's run to the plaza. That's what bull running is. And you have men who run along, called pastores, who have these long sticks. And if they see someone touch the bull, they'll literally hit them, and other guys will grab your side and beat you up for touching the animal. You're not supposed to touch the animal.
The pastores are probably some of the best runners in and around Spain that grow up and have been around bulls and animals in general. But the way they move in and around the animals, how they separate people from the animals, is, I find, to be so spectacular. But these guys keep a distance between people who don't know anything about bulls, and they stop people dead in their tracks. They'll hit you in a spot where they know the nerves of your ankles, your knees, your hand. They know exactly what you're going to do, and if they want to stop you dead in your tracks, they know where and how hard to hit you with this flexible bent thing that just bends over. They will whack you on your head here, it'll hit you in the nose here, and come down and hit you in the chest. That thing is amazing. But for them, to watch them in action, they have a certain flow. And so you'll see they'll be stationed, so they come out of different areas in and along the run, and each person is responsible for a certain part of the run, and they move up the street. They keep the animals moving up the street.
Nosotros nos distribuimos en los 850 metros de recorrido, estamos 8 pastores y nos vamos poniendo pues cada 200 metros para que el ganado siempre tenga un pastor que dirija para que no se quede ningún buey retrasado, o si se queda algún toro, para que el toro siempre avance hacia adelante, para que no retroceda.
Bueno, en el momento que un toro se queda suelto y es necesario reconducirlo, nuestra labor principal por la que estamos aquí encargados es que el toro se recorte, se toque lo menos posible y llegue todo lo limpio que puedas, y cuanto más rápido mejor a la plaza. Entonces, lo que hacemos principalmente es con la vara recortarlo. Aquí en nuestra tierra recortar significa darle vuelta sin opción a que el toro se pueda volver y volverlo otra vez encauzarlo hacia la dirección correcta.
Corredores auténticos de Pamplona, o sea, son gente que saben, experta, gente que sabe dónde se tienen que colocar. Sin embargo, pues digamos el típico turista que viene, el que está toda la noche borrachera, pues son que no saben que cuando se vuelve el toro o se cae el toro, pues, que no tienen que correr de la cara del toro para el culo, de correr todo para adelante. Y ese es cuando empieza el problema. Que viene uno por esa escuela, que te lo recorta, entonces cuando hay que empezar a pegar, está mal no pegar, pero muchas veces es la única solución. O sea, es poner nosotros sobre ellos. Porque si realmente no aguantaríamos a la gente, el toro es probable que volvería otra vez a Santo Domingo.
They'd run ahead, and then the bull would catch them, and they'd run some more like this. It's amazing. And the pastores were behind. They took up the whole street, and they put their sticks out like this, so people shouldn't go past them. Yeah. And I think there was one in the back. If somebody got too close, whack, whack. Just letting everybody have it. They really did a great job today. It's really something.
In 1972, by accident, running with a bull, and I was trying to push him away, actually. The streets weren't even crowded. The bull was just crowding me. And at the last second, somebody hit me with a stick, and I didn't know that there were pastores in the street whose job it is to keep you from touching the animals. And like a jerk, I jumped up and turned around and wanted to get in a fist fight. I was a punk kid back then. This guy would have killed me. He was built like a brick. I mean, he was absolutely, but he was right. He broke 3 of my fingers. And after he explained to me, they pulled me against the wall and they were going to beat me up, and they explained to me, don't touch the animal. Well, I'm godfather to that man's child now, and he is still a pastore. He works in Bilbao, and he works for the bull ranches, and he still runs. He's still a fabulous athlete, but he was right. He was telling us not to touch the animal. You don't impede the run. So I learned my lesson early, and I hope a lot of the people touching the bulls learn their lesson without getting their fingers broken the way I did. If you get 1,000 photographs over the last 25 years, you'll pick out the same 20 people, maybe 15 or 20 great runners, men who are constantly on the horns of the bull. And become a great runner takes a great amount of talent. Now, what is a great runner? A great runner is somebody who waits in one of these positions all the way up the street for the bulls to come, works his way through the crowd of people, gets in front of the bull, preferably on the horns of the bull, and runs as long as he can on the horns of the bull without in any way deterring the bull from its course, touching the bull, or damaging the bull. We rarely get recognition as athletes here because no one wants to recognize this as a sport. That's fine with me. But if you have a man in the Olympics runs 100 yards fast and he's considered a great athlete and everybody thinks he's great. What is a Julian Medina, Miguel Angel Castander, Miguel Angel Egaluz, Joe Kinjusti, Jema Esparza? I'm mentioning them because they deserve it. What are those guys? They're running 100 yards with a bull on them, bumping their head. I mean, to me, these are great athletes, and I'm proud to be part of them. And the greatest single thing for me is, and I've gotten a lot of glory out of this, I mean, stuff I never expected, articles and papers and interviews like the one you're doing right now. But for me, the fact that those men recognize me as a runner and come up to me is my greatest. I wouldn't care if anybody in America ever knew that I ran a bull. They know.
El encierro es distinto. El toro suelto es más peligroso porque mira más, y si se queda el toro, si se queda es porque el toro va al cite, al toque, como se dice en el argot taurino. Entonces va por todo. Si vas en carrera, vas hermanado, es como si fuera pues una manada compacta, y ahí sí que se demuestra el corredor experimentado que es muy difícil meterse. Ahí no tienes que dudar nada, la cabeza muy fría, colocarte, mirar, acoplarte al ritmo del toro y aguantar ahí en el medio o en la cabeza. A mí me gusta la cabeza, que es lo más rápido. Mi sensación es meterme en la cabeza. Cuando estás ahí ya no tienes que tener miedo, ni pánico ni nada, tienes que tener la cabeza fría. Ya ahí es el dominio de tu psicología con el toro y tienes que estar pues dominando la situación siempre.
Because I am considered one of the really good American runners, maybe, I don't know, they think that I'm a little, but there's a little pressure on you because while other runners can have bad days and things, people say if I have a bad day, they say, oh, Joe Distler's getting old, Joe can't run anymore. I don't want to have to prove that to anybody, and I don't have to do that anymore. I don't have anything to prove after 30 years to anybody. People here know I've been a great runner, and they know I love the Fiesta. But the problem with becoming known that way is they expect it every day. When I was younger and I could run 100, 200 yards with no sweat, there was always the possibility of, if I couldn't get them in the first 50, I'd get them in the second and the third. When you have younger legs than I have, you have that. I don't have that possibility anymore. I have to make it in that first 50 yards. I can't run 300 yards, not only because of my hip replacement, I'm just at my age and time. I can't do that. Some men might be able to, I can't. So that's why this morning was so important. I knew I had it. I knew I had 50 yards in me. I took the center of the street, and the bull luckily followed along, and I feel terrific. But I did it for myself this morning, to prove to myself, hey, you can still do it when you have to. You still have legs. And that's why I feel good, because I know that I still have, I hope, a couple more years left in me before I retire or before I move on and do whatever I can. Went down, the guy I run with, he fell next to the bull, and I saw him. There's nothing I could do, and I haven't seen him in the street. I just hope he didn't get gored. Oh, she got gored badly. Tom saw it. She went straight up in the air. There was blood all over. If she's not dead, she's very seriously hurt. Very, very serious. But you know what? She was standing there. Probably never asked anybody how to run.
It was very
special. And the nice part was, you know, there are always a few people in the crowd who are just selfish and self-involved, but for the most part, when everyone starts singing, everybody is singing in unison, and there's this spirit.
And everyone's
really
looking at us like we were absolutely crazy.
Because we were the only women around, so everyone was saying, you know, you sure you want to do this, and what are you doing here, and is this your first time? And it was great.
This is a guy who was an All-American football player at Penn State, and a great buddy of mine, Gary, and he just wrote a book about Pamplona. And he comes, this is his wife who he ran with today. He can introduce himself, and you might want to ask him why he comes and what he does. Yeah. Terrific runner, even though he comes 2-3 days. But every time he's out there in the street, and we became friends because they did an article on us once. We were both on either side of the horn of a bull. And it turns out he was a Penn State football player. You know, I couldn't even get into Penn State. So I'm proud. He's my idol. So I want you to get him in this.
We
Go ahead.
are.
We are, yeah. So you might want.
Have you been running today?
We ran today. This is my wife, Katie O'Toole, and I have my 2 oldest daughters here, and having a great time.
It was wonderful. I run a little bit further ahead of the pack than he does, so I came in with the first couple of cows, and that's plenty close enough to the bulls for me. We have 6 kids, so one of us has to live.
Mercaderes y la curva, los dos de la manada partida. Bueno, ayer viste que se rompió de la manada, hoy se ha roto la manada y mañana veremos. Yo creo que con el primer toro bien, al final mandan los chavales cruzados. Hay chavales andan cruzándose derecha e izquierda, todos en la carrera. Lo que me estás preguntando respecto a dejarlo o cuándo se tienen que acabar las cosas, yo no lo sé, es difícil y yo no me atrevo, ni me atrevo a decir, ni me atrevo a criticar. Cada uno lo lleva como puede. A mí me gustaría tener la dignidad de poder terminar, dejar la carrera y poder estar aquí con mis amigos disfrutando de la fiesta. No sé si voy a ser capaz, porque me va a resultar muy duro no tener las sensaciones y hablar con la gente, hablando de lo que ha sido la carrera, de lo que han sentido, y yo no compartir eso. No lo sé. Yo sé que cada vez está más cerca, porque evidentemente el tiempo corre en contra de uno. Pero bueno, cuando llegue me tendré que plantear. Yo sé que será un momento duro, un momento muy duro.
And I remember what Muhammad Ali once said they once said to him, aren't you ever frightened when you box? Muhammad Ali, you know, he said, I'm always afraid. Always. Till the bell goes off. And then I just do what I do. In the morning here, I can't talk to people. A lot of people think I'm stuck up about it. They'll say, oh, you know, it has nothing to do with that. Half the time I can't talk because I'm so nervous. And I make no qualms about it. And that's good. I like being nervous. I think without that fear, maybe I wouldn't be as alert as I am. If I ever woke up casual, took this thing casually, I don't know what might happen. I'm glad I'm alert and I'm tense. I'm always frightened.
There's something magical about being out there with those animals, the strength, the power of them. In the 19th century in Spain, they used to take Spanish fighting bulls and put them in cages with lions and tigers and bears, and they always killed all of the animals, except one time they put an elephant in. And apparently the bull couldn't kill the elephant, but it beat it into submission. It destroyed the elephant, but he didn't kill it. Spanish fighting bulls are extremely strong animals.
Lo que le pongas por delante lo arrolla para ir a buscar al resto de la cámara. Claro, estamos hablando de arrollar de un bicho que pesa 650, 690 kilos, que tiene una longitud, como comentamos, que de casi 2 metros y que entre esta y esta sobrepasa el metro. Claro, entonces, si a ti te arrolla una persona cuando estás un día tranquilamente en la calle y a los 2 días te recuerdas el golpe, imagínate lo que puede ser el ser arrollado por un bicho de 600 y pico kilos que va a buscar a sus hermanos.
If you run the bulls every day, no matter who you are, no matter how great you are, eventually you're going to be hit. You have to understand that. You'll either be bumped, thrown down, gored. It's going to happen. It's just the odds are against you in that. If, God forbid, you fall down, the thing is never to get up. Now, that sounds very easy, but I can tell you from experience, after showing people how to run for 25 years, I was bumped a few years ago. And like a dummy, I went down on the ground, I was laying in the corner, and I pushed my tongue against my tooth, and I realized my tooth was coming out. And my ego was such a thing that I thought, oh my God, my tooth. And what I did was I knelt up in the street. And the bull that had hit me with his head in the back hadn't moved after he hit me. He was standing in the middle of the street like this, scanning. And you talk about time, I thought minutes had gone by, seconds had gone by. And like a jerk, I got up. And I went, oh, my tooth. And as I got up and knelt, the first thing this bull saw was this idiot, Joe Distler, moving, and that's when he hit me. Now, if I didn't get hit that second time, my hip wouldn't have gone out. I would have just been, hurt. And here I am telling people, we all try to tell people what to do. It's very easy to say that, but it's like a boxer, It's easy to say to a boxer, throw the left. When you're in there, boy, throwing the left isn't as easy as it sounds.
I'm not sure what made me trip, but I ended up like straight along the street with in the middle, me, and then people on the sides, and then the bulls coming right over me. And I just got trampled. I got trampled by, I think 3 or 4 bulls went over me. I guess only one of them really, really stepped on me, but it gave me a nice mark on my my cheek and my chin. I got a stitch in my chin. And I knew I couldn't stand up because if I stood up, it was prime time for getting gored in the butt or in the back or wherever. And I rolled. I covered my head and I just rolled sideways to the side, and then I popped up and sprinted out. But I'm lucky I didn't get gored. I'm very lucky I didn't get gored. I'm still here.
I've been photographing conflict for the last 25 years in a lot of wars, and what I find interesting is not that I'm facing death and that I'm maybe brave sometimes, maybe stupid other times, and maybe cowardly other times, but it's the decisions that you make under pressure that are very interesting and very revealing to yourself, how you react in a situation. And you look at that later and you say, I survived, they must have been the right decisions. Very good. And it was very similar. It's a very similar feeling in running the bulls. Do you go forward? Do you go out? Do you get closer to this section or closer to that section? When danger's around you, you're dealing with the same elements. You'll see it in somebody's mind when they make that decision and they go, oh, but it's quicker than that. It's much quicker than that. And if you hesitate, you're gone. Then you're confused, and you don't know where you are, and you feel insecure, and then you're in trouble.
El instante del encierro es como un segundo, ¿no? Lo que te pasa, como si fuese un fotograma que pasa frente a ti. Entonces tú tienes que captar en ese segundo, o sea, hay una cantidad de información que no puedes. La gente corriendo, el color de la gente, el adoquín de la calle, las barreras, los edificios de la calle Estafeta, las caras de la gente viendo el encierro, una cámara al fondo, un señor el policía que le pega a uno una hostia para que... Bueno, y todo eso ocurre en un segundo, un tío que se cae, el otro que se levanta, el otro que le pega un codo, y es como que todo pasa así de rápido, de repente aquello ves que se va quedando como que todo va volviendo a la irrealidad, que de repente ese caos, que de repente como que todo lo desastre, se va volviendo otra vez como a la calma, la gente de repente se queda así como mirándose, ¿no? Como estamos vivos o qué pasa, ¿no? Y la tralla, o sea, y empieza otra vez la fiesta hasta el otro día y no paras y es imposible que pares, porque es como la sensación de decir, joder, estoy vivo, ¿no? Esto hay que celebrarlo.
Ambulancia medicalizada urgente a la curva Mercaderes.
You know, I've seen people hurt. I've seen guys get gored. Matt was gored one year in the hospital. That affected us greatly because when you see Matt get gored or Julian Medina get gored, and I saw Julian in the hospital, you think to yourself, wow, Julian Medina, Matt Carney gored. Then you know if it can happen to the greatest of them, it can happen to anybody. And sure, those things work on your mind, of course they do. Those are the parts of the things you have to get over, the fear you get over. And I think, you know, well, maybe I should retire now. But what am I going to retire? For what? To sit in a rocking chair or play golf? What guarantee do I have? I read where Evel Knievel, the great guy a motorcycle guy who used to jump over cars and jump off cliffs and everything, that he was on a golf course and he got hurt on a golf course worse than he ever was hurt in a motorcycle accident. So, I mean, if it's your time, baby, it's going to be your time. What difference does it all make? You know? And plus, the excitement of being out in the street is a wonderful thing. And I have said to people on occasion, you know, why do you run? Some people have stopped running for a year or two, and then they want to come back and run. There's this whole complexity involved. And I do it because it adds to my life. It gives a richness to my life. I like that excitement that this week brings. I can't wait until it's over, because then I can relax on the beach and think, oh, I did it and it's over. Now I can, and then about 3 weeks after it's over, I think, God, how many weeks till next year? You know, it's crazy, huh? And as long as I feel that way about it, I'll do it. And a lot of other runners will tell you the same thing. I think that there's just this excitement of being in the streets with these bulls. We can't be bullfighters. I could never have the nerve to stand in front of a bull that way. But you can kind of share that, and then you see the bulls fought in the afternoon. You realize, wow, I was in the street with that thing. Wow, is that amazing, you know? And just think about it. You put it on the line. You could get injured. You could get hurt. You could get damaged. I guess all that's true, but you know, we live very normal lives. I'm a teacher, a professor. I own a few businesses. During the year, I live a life like everybody else. You get up, you go to work, you come home, you watch television, you read books, you quote poetry. But it's very rarely that you get something that's so unique like running bulls that for just a little portion of your life, you can be totally insane.
I watched that whole thing, man. I was only 6 feet from you. I watched that whole thing. You guys were so lucky today, man. I can't believe it.
It was out of control.
The bull did not even turn. He didn't even take a break. He went straight into that fence.
And he came into it, and then I went to the wall, and then I was like, this isn't a bad place. I just fell to the ground.
I thought you were hooked up on him for a while there.
No, and I just dropped to the ground. He went over me, and then I stood up, and the 3 were on the ground. And I just cut in there, picked up the first 2 that got up, went up, let them go by. Then the last one came up, started to run that, and one came down. I go by Paul. And went and got people over there. The one that was going up with me got people over there. It's just sick. Hey, Joe.
You know what? I'm going to talk to Jimmy Hollander and tell him he should never, ever talk about bad things happening in the NCAA, even in jest. San Fermin was with me today. That's the worst that's ever happened in my life.
Man?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Jesus. Holy
Christ, that's unbelievable, man. Wow. I'm going to go get some...
You got to be like 10 feet off the ground right now. Joe, I don't think I'm hurt at all. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Hey. Went straight.
Straight on.
Got him. Got Joe pinned in there, man. So lucky today. God damn it.
I need another run tomorrow to get... I'm happy now, after all these years, just getting close to the bulls, being in there, in the scramble of it all. And the best feeling, of course, is the minute it's over. And you walk up the street and you see your friends and you hope no one's been hurt. And then guys grab you and say, let's go have a cold beer. 10 after 8 in the morning. A whole day ahead of you. Life, dancing, beautiful women, great friends. I mean, God, that's why when people say, you're going back to Pamplona again? Oh, please, of course I'm going. Am I going back to Pamplona? You might as well ask me, am I breathing? Of course I'm going back. Because that feeling has never changed. And I thank the Pamplonicas for accepting us in, for making us part of the feria. It's very important. They accept us. This is their feria. And they really have make us feel wanted. They know we are part of it. We want to be part of it. We respect it. And the fact that they recognize that you're one of them is the single best thing that's ever happened to us. And if you come here and want to run bulls, and that's what you should be aiming at, being looked at by one of those great runners and come up to you and say, enhorabuena, what a great, then you got it, kid. That's what it's about. We had a guy named Geronimo, a great basket runner, a little guy, 5'2", and he literally ran until he was 84 years old. He was in the street. 84! I'm a kid, I haven't even started yet. And one day, on his 75th birthday, Julian Medina and his brothers, he has 3 brothers, 3 great runners, and 2 other guys, they formed a wedge, literally in the middle of the street. This is how great these guys are. They formed like an arrowhead, and they put Geronimo behind them, and they cleared the street for him. They ran up like this, clearing the street, so that when the bulls came, they hit Geronimo first. He ran about 15 yards, then they cleared the street, and he ran off. He got to run 15 yards on his 75th birthday. Now, that's not so bad, huh? What are you going to be doing on your 75th birthday?